Wife came out of the closet and we got divorced. But now I'm happily married and my ex won't leave me. She stood in our kitchen, mascara streaking down her face, confessing she'd been living a lie. Karen, my wife of 7 years, wasn't just unhappy she was in love with someone else. A woman. The words hit like a freight train, not because of who she loved, but because the life we'd built was a house of cards crumbling in seconds. I'm Ethan, and this is how my world unraveled, only to be stitched back together in ways I never imagined. Back then, Karen and I were the couple everyone envied. High school sweethearts turned suburban success story. We had a cozy house in Maple Grove, 2 dogs, and plans for kids someday. I was a software engineer. She was a graphic designer, and we'd spend evenings sipping wine, dreaming about our future. But there were cracks I didn't see. Karen was distant, her laughter forced, her eyes always somewhere else. I thought it was stress. I was wrong. The night she came out was a Thursday. We were prepping dinner lasagna, her favorite, when she dropped the bomb. "Ethan, I'm gay," she said, voice trembling. "I've been seeing someone. Her name's Lisa." My knife froze mid-chop. The room spun. I didn't yell or cry. I just stood there, onions stinging my eyes, trying to process the betrayal. Not the fact that she was gay, I could have supported that, but the secrecy, the lies, the other person. She'd been sneaking around for months, meeting Lisa at work events, while I was home planning our anniversary trip. The divorce was swift but brutal. Karen wanted the house, the dogs, the life we'd built. I fought for half, not out of spite, but because I needed something to hold on to. The court gave me the house. She got the dogs and a chunk of our savings. I thought that was the end. I was wrong again. For months, I was a ghost in my own life. Friends stopped calling, too awkward to pick sides. I'd sit in my empty house, staring at walls still painted her favorite shade of blue. But time does what it does. It drags you forward. I started therapy, joined a hiking group, and slowly, I began to feel like Ethan again, not the broken husband, but a man with a future. That's when I met Sarah. She was a park ranger, all sun-freckled smiles and quiet strength, guiding our group through a forest trail. We bonded over bad coffee and worse puns, and for the first time in years, I felt seen. Sarah wasn't a rebound. She was a revelation. She listened when I talked about my past, never judged, and showed me what trust could look like. 6 months later, I proposed under a starlit sky. She said yes, and we married in a small ceremony by the lake, surrounded by people who cared about us. Life felt whole again. But Karen wasn't done with me. It started small texts at odd hours, just checking in. I ignored them, thinking she'd move on. She didn't. She'd show up at my office, claiming she needed closure. She'd call Sarah, pretending to be a concerned friend, planting seeds of doubt about my loyalty. I blocked her number, but she'd use new ones. She'd send emails, long rants about how I'd ruined her life by keeping the house, how I'd forced her to come out before she was ready. Each message was a jab, twisting the knife of our shared past. Sarah and I tried to stay calm. We changed our numbers, tightened our social media, and even got a restraining order. But Karen was relentless. She'd park across the street from our house, watching. Neighbors whispered about the crazy ex who'd leave notes on my car, accusing me of abandoning her. Once, she showed up at Sarah's work, tearfully begging for a meeting, claiming I'd stolen her chance at happiness. The lies piled up, each one chipping away at the peace we'd built. The tension grew unbearable. Sarah, my rock, started to crack. She'd wake up in a cold sweat, worried Karen would do something drastic. I felt helpless, caught between protecting my new life and dodging the shrapnel of my old one. We installed cameras, changed locks, but the fear lingered. Karen wasn't just an ex. She was a storm, tearing through our world with no regard for the wreckage. The breaking point came on a rainy October night. Sarah and I were hosting a small dinner party, our first since the wedding. Friends filled the house with laughter, the smell of roasted chicken wafting through the air. It was the kind of night that felt like a promise of better days. Then the doorbell rang. I opened it, and there was Karen, soaked to the bone, eyes wild. "We need to talk," she slurred, reeking of wine. Before I could shut the door, she pushed past me, stumbling into the living room. Our guest froze, Sarah's face drained of color, her hands trembling as she stepped forward. "Karen, you need to leave," she said, voice steady but sharp. Karen laughed, a jagged sound, and pointed at me. "You think you can just erase me? Ethan, you think you get to be happy while I'm nothing?" She grabbed a framed photo from our wedding off the shelf and smashed it on the floor, glass scattered, glinting in the lamplight. Our friends gasped, some backing away, others reaching for their phones. I stepped toward her, heart pounding. "Karen, this ends now. You don't get to ruin this." But she wasn't listening. She lunged at Sarah, screaming about how she'd stolen me. I grabbed her arm, pulling her back, while Sarah stood her ground, eyes blazing with defiance. "You made your choices, Karen," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the chaos. "You don't get to rewrite our story." The police arrived minutes later, called by a neighbor who'd seen Karen's car circling earlier. She fought as they cuffed her, screaming my name, her voice echoing down the street. Our guests stood in stunned silence. The warmth of the evening shattered. Sarah clung to me, her breath shaky, and I felt the weight of every choice that had led us here. The aftermath was a blur. Karen's arrest made local news. Her mugshot plastered online, a stark contrast to the polished woman I'd once loved. She faced charges for violating the restraining order and vandalism. The court ordered therapy and community service, but the damage was done. Her friends, the ones who'd once pitied her, turned away, embarrassed by her unraveling. Lisa, her partner, left her, unable to handle the obsession that had consumed her. Sarah and I rebuilt, piece by piece. We went to counseling, not because we were broken, but because we wanted to be whole. Our friends rallied around us, their support a reminder that we weren't alone. The house, once a battlefield, became a home again. We painted over Karen's blue walls, replacing them with warm yellows, a color Sarah chose for new beginnings. Karen's last message came a month later. A handwritten letter slipped into our mailbox before she moved out of state. It wasn't an apology, not really, just a rambling confession of regret, blaming everyone but herself. I burned it in the backyard, watching the flames curl around her words. It wasn't about hate, it was about letting go. Looking back, I don't hate Karen. I pity her. She chose lies over truth, chaos over healing, and it cost her everything. I could have let her pull me down with her, but I didn't. Sarah taught me that love isn't possession, it's partnership. And that's what we have, a life built on trust, not control. What do you think? Was Karen a victim of her own choices? Or did life deal her an unfair hand? Share your thoughts, I'd love to hear them. And